people waste time because they don't know how to utilize generative AI models. They don't have the right skills. They don't know how to converse with AI. Or generative AI is just one solution to it, right? But problem is that people have issues with their mindsets. A person is saying to you, I can't do this. Good. What does it mean in the brain? Go to the closed door. You cannot open it because you cannot do it. So it's a closed door. You want to open the door? You have to say, I cannot do this yet. When you say yet, you open the door for an opportunity. Cannot do this? Closed door. In the brain, I cannot do this yet. And the person will tell you, I cannot do this yet. And I will say to him, therefore I will.
Podcast by Sunday Pajamas.
Mr. Opher, I would say this is an honor and a privilege to have a conversation with you. The first time I met you was at the Microsoft headquarters in Toronto.
Yeah.
And we had, I would say, few minutes to strike a conversation. And we also attended your session on your work at ImproAI, and you shared wonderful insights about behavioral research. And I think we had like a small cute chat about the kind of ideas that you are trying to, I would say, incorporate to enhance human performance.
Yeah.
I would say the idea of it, I find it to be very fascinating. So my background is computer science, but I find myself reading about things like behavioral science, psychology quite a lot.
Yeah.
And in this conversation, I'm hoping that we can explore some of the ideas that you have spent many years to not just study but also implement in the marketplace and also in your research. Thank you for spending the time with us. I would like to begin by asking you about the early days of your, I would not say career, but more like when you were growing up and when you were just trying to make sense of what you want to study. How was your childhood? You have done so much work over the course of the last few decades, right? So if you could give us a sense of how it all started.
I will tell you this. Basically, I went to school when I was 6 years old, like any other child. And after 2 days, I decided I don't want to continue with school. My father was also a school teacher. So he decided to homeschool me because I did not enjoy studying in school. So my father developed a unique methodology just for me to train me, which basically was how to turn me into a polymath thinker. And everything that he was doing was based on kind of, I would say, 4 elements: pattern recognition, pattern analysis, pattern design. Because when you look at patterns, you can understand the world. And when you can break the patterns into parts, you can design a new world for yourself. So basically, I was homeschooled by my father in a very strange way that nobody in the world has been trained possibly.
Right.
And I think this is the brain that I have today, which I need to be thankful for my father because he's the guy who developed this kind of mind and how it works.
Right. And where do you think he got the idea from?
I think the basic idea was that my father, and please remember, we're talking about, let's say I'm 68 now, so it was 65 years ago or 62 years ago. He knew that jobs are changing in the world already at those times. He saw like the manufacturing is being built in the world, so people change their jobs, and some jobs being erased from the world and some new. And he said, for sure, we will not know what you will become when you grow up. And therefore, we need to give you the skill of reskilling yourself endlessly. So this is the basically kind of the tool that he gave me. And he took the idea from some people in history who were capable at understanding many fields at the same time. A polymath is a person that understands very little about everything, right?
Da Vinci is a good example.
So, well, Leonardo da Vinci was the first person my father was trying to create out of me. To know a little bit about music and arts and science and whatever. But he created the whole methodology around it. And that was the beauty of it, because it was step-by-step methodology. And every 3 years he said to me, and now you're ready, my son. And now you're ready, my son. Every 3 years until I was 18 years old. He's the one who developed this kind of mind, which is important to know, because when we established this company, the idea of the investors was to replicate my mind into AI.
Was your father, could you share the name of your father?
Yeah, his name was Dov, Dov, like Dove, right? Dove Breyer. He passed away about in last October. He was 103 when he died. He knew that he's dying. He knew the day. He said to me the same day on WhatsApp, because he lived in another country. So he said to me on WhatsApp, "It's tonight. So take care of yourself, dear." And that's it. He knew. I think it was like 6 months before that I met with him in my homeland, and he held my hand at that time, and he said to me, he knew that it's coming soon, so he said to me, "Will you remember me?" And I said, "Daddy, at every keynote speaking I've done in the world, I was talking about you in the past 50 years. Every keynote speaking that I've done, I was talking about him. So don't worry, I will not forget you, and many others will not." He's a very special
Right.
person. He wanted little Leonardo, basically. That's what he wanted. That was the idea.
Right. Right.
But he needed to find out a way to do it. And so I was trained totally different than any human in the world.
And how was your experience like trying to learn all these different things all at the same time? Was it, I would say, intimidating for you when you were younger? Did you think that you were doing something so different than the rest of the people who were capable of
I'll
that?
tell you this. In the beginning, let's say, just to know how it worked, he brought me puzzles.
Right.
And so it was small puzzles, was 40 pieces and 80 pieces. And over the following 3 years, he brought me puzzles of 3,000 and 5,000 pieces to build. But the puzzle came in a box. So we had to figure out systems, right? Start with the corners, then take those one with the straight lines, put them into different boxes of different colors. That was the easiest part in the beginning. But then the main idea was how you build the puzzle as fast as possible. So the time was the essence. So how do you build a puzzle of 5,000 pieces in less than
Right.
2 hours? That was the target, the speed of pattern recognition of pieces of puzzle. And that's why today, even of what we do in the company, it's pattern recognition of the human puzzle, the human mind puzzle, because it's a puzzle of a lot of elements in our head, right? So that's what we do in our company today, right? But the concept was puzzles. But then one day he said to me that I'm ready. He said to me, "Son, you are ready." And he brought me another 1,000 pieces instead of 5,000, an easy one, but he didn't give me the picture. Like usually on the box, you have the picture. That you don't have the picture, you don't know where to start, right? So that 1,000 pieces took me 20 hours to figure out instead of 2 hours, right? Because they didn't have the picture. But you have to recognize the picture. So the mind is very complex of any human, yours, mine. So in order to look inside your mind to see how it works and what are the internal patterns of thoughts and feelings and actions, you have to practice this when you're very young with puzzles first. So that was the
Makes sense.
beginning of the
Right.
work. And then there were other skills, and one of them was how to read books. So I read 17,000 books until I was 18 years old, read and studied
Wow.
because of a technique that my father was teaching me. And it's not, people say, fast reading or something. No, it's a slow reading model.
Right. Could you walk us through the process of it?
A little bit, because there were a lot of elements into it, but basically said to me, go to the library instead of going to school. I went to the library from 9 to 4, and then take one shelf, which has the same subject, right? Let's say geography or philosophy or something, and read each one of the books one at a time. So read the first book. How do you read it? Basically, you open the first page, you look at the first paragraph, and you look at the first sentence. You read the sentence, and you have a little workbook on the side, and you write a question about the sentence, and then you answer the question with your own words, but it can be an analogy to different fields. So let's say it says the skies are blue, but what I have in my mind at the same time is that I want to have blue bicycles, and so my question will be about the bicycles, and the answer will be about the bicycles, not about the sky are blue, because this is the analogy I've made in my head. And so the way to learn the book was by using a lot of analogies all the time, or to ask a question about the sentence itself. And the first book, let's say 100 pages, takes like, I don't know, 50 hours to finish. However, when you go to the second book, what he was teaching me says, look, it's the same subject. So some people write the same thing in a different way. Now, when you read the second book, whenever you see something you already read in the first book, on the first book, jump. Jump over because you've read it. Just scan it fast. Don't ask questions, nothing. Just scan fast. So let's say the next book is 100 pages. Then now it takes you 90% of the time to read because you can skip. But the third book, you skip 20%. And the fourth book, you skip 40% and 30%. And on the 10th book, you skip 90% of what is written. So it takes you 1 hour to finish the book with all the questions in place. And now that you go, to another subject, let's say after philosophy, I went to psychology, let's say, it was easy to see relationship between psychology and philosophy because you say, oh, this is an analogy. It's the same, right? It's like this is like this is like this is like. So now even the new books in philosophy, I didn't have to read all of them because I was able to skip the information that already exists in my mind and memorized. So this is the reading part. Just to know,
I see.
it's a very long conversation about my education. We can talk about it for 4 hours.
So when you say pattern recognition, you are trying to essentially think of a subject as like structure, and then when you
Yes,
read another subject, you can see the similar parts of the structure which you already knew from the first subject. Does it have to do a lot with correlating the ideas from one field to the other and kind of trying to build a worldview of your own, or like a knowledge graph of your own in your mind?
yes. Let me give you an example. Okay, a person wants to make a decision, and you converse with the person. So when I'm listening to a conversation, I'm looking for the bias in the conversation. First of all,
Right.
what is biasing you saying what you're saying? And then I'm looking what are the emotions that are connected to this bias, because a bias creates emotions. And then I'm looking for the emotional equation. How is it built inside of you? This is from one sentence. And then I'm looking what framework or what mental model you're using to think with. And then I'm looking how your bias is letting you make the right or the wrong decisions based on the framework you're using, because the bias will influence your decision making. So even though you're using the right skill, you still can be biased and make wrong decisions. People can use the right skills and make wrong decisions because their assumptions are not correct, right? So when we do our work with with all the people that we work with, we are looking at every statement from 60 layers by 60 layers of analytics in order to figure what do you say, what you said, and how what you're saying, and how it's going to influence your failure point, your next failure or your next success on a micro level, right? Not big success, not how to become Elon Musk or something, but those tiny elements. We look at those patterns all the time. That's what we do, pattern recognition. So when you say knowledge graph, it's the same because we connect elements between different fields in order to figure out what is the reason you're saying why do you do this particular thing this particular way. So we map it all the time. So and then we make all these connections like in knowledge graphs, right? So
So, are there some fundamental ideas that you think drive certain kinds of behaviors? For example, if a person is very driven and very motivated, since the ImproAI is focused on driving performance, there will be some traits that you see that, okay, if a person showcases these traits, chances of that person being highly motivated are very high versus someone who is not that highly motivated, for example.
yeah, but we need to understand what motivation means, because motivation it could be an internal need that a person has that can make him fail all the time. Don't believe that motivation is making successful people. It
Right,
depends if they want to achieve or they want to compete. It's not the same, right?
right,
I give you maybe an example from the world, from the regular world that we live in. Many people, many managers would say to their employees, do more with less. I would never use this statement. I would say, do more with AI. Instead of you doing the work, let AI do the work that requires a lot of time to do. When people sit in a meeting and they waste 6 meetings of 1 hour of 20 people in a room, and this solution can be created with AI in less than 12 seconds, why do they spend the time talking? Because if they talk too much, then they have less time to work. So, does time management problem exist in the world? Well, no, there's no time management issue in the world. However, when people talk about time management, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. Well, if you waste your time in meetings, you will never have time to do the work. Execution is 90% of your work. Talking should be only 10% of your work. And most people go to meetings of 90% of the time, and then what is left is 10 minutes or 10% to do the work itself. So is it about time management? No, it is about task management.
right.
Many people will, it's my next book is about task management versus time management, right? So people talk about time. Time is 24 hours. You cannot bend time. You cannot change time. It's 24 hours and you need to sleep and you need to read a book and you need to have fun and you need to work. The point is not how do you manage the time. It's how you manage the task that can release time for you. So if you waste 1 hour to solve a problem that I can solve in 2 minutes, why would you waste 58 minutes?
Right.
So people waste time because they don't know how to utilize generative AI models. They don't have the right skills. They don't know how to converse with AI. AI is just one, or generative AI is just one solution to it, right? But the problem is that people have issues with their mindset. Maybe I'll give you an example for this. A person is saying to you, I can't do this. Good. What does it mean in the brain? Go to the closed door. You cannot open it because you cannot do it. So it's a closed door. You want to open the door? You have to say, I cannot do this yet.
Right.
When you say yet, you open the door for an opportunity. Cannot do this? Closed door. In the brain, it's like generative AI, the same. You say to GPT the wrong word, you get the wrong answer. So I cannot do this, wrong answer. I cannot do this yet. And the person will tell you, I cannot do this yet. And I will say to him, therefore I will. And the person is saying, it's like a sentence completion kind of person. And therefore, I will talk to John about it. Maybe he knows the answer. Good. And then I will say, by when? What do you mean by when? Monday. Well, what time? 9:30 in the morning. Good. So 9:40 in the morning, I'm sending him a message. Did you talk to David or to John, whatever the name was? And did you ask him how to do so? Yes. Do you know how to do this? Approximately. Do you want me to help you with a strategy? I will give a strategy how to implement it. Do you want one? Click, 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 send. And he gets the strategy. Now he can implement it. We can overcome the mindset issue. And then he can try a new behavior. And if it works, he can replicate it and create it a habit. Our work is to create hundreds of habits per year for every person. So imagine you have like 1,000 employees changing 400 habits per year. So the company has changed for 500,000 habits in 1 year, which is more suitable and more adaptable to the situation of the time that they live in, right? That's it. So this is kind of...
So, would you describe this as a change in a subtle perception, in the sense when you add the word yet, it kind of gives yourself the permission to think in a way that, oh, yes, I don't have the skill yet, for example.
Yes, because it opens a new door in the brain, a different door. It's not a different path. It takes the brain to a path. It's like yesterday, there were a couple of people sick in the office. So I wrote to them, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm sick, stuffed nose, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote to them, okay, take care of yourself. This is the normal statement that everybody will say. But I've added, take care of yourself, but do not feel sorry for yourself. You see, when people are sick, they feel sorry for themselves. So take care of yourself. Do not feel sorry for yourself, because this will make your recovery longer. So you change the mindset and you say the impact. You see, if you sit at home and say, oh, I'm sick, I cannot work, what will happen? I cannot, I have a back pain, I have this. If you feel sorry for yourself, it's very hard to heal. How can you add positivity into a pain? That's a hard question to ask, right? So I gave them the advice. Today, 2 of them came to work, right? Because the recovery can be faster if you change your thoughts, or you change your feelings, or you change your actions, right? One thing you have to change.
Is it because the linguistic system of our brain is also very deeply connected to the biological system, the limbic system of our body?
Absolutely.
Right.
Look, you can go to AI, you can go to ChatGPT, create for me a solution for blah, 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 and then you create a solution. You still have a problem, the execution part, because GPT will not execute it. Now comes the problem. GPT will give you a beautiful plan. You read it and say, oh, this is beautiful. I'm going to... But then you cannot execute it because of your belief systems, your biases, you don't have the skills. That becomes the problem. Yesterday, I had a friend who told me that they are going to travel to some city in Europe, and I lived in that city before for a couple of years. So they decided to create a plan on how to look around the city with GPT. So they shared with me the plan by GPT. And I said to them, it looks beautiful, but you will not enjoy any moment of what GPT said, because GPT never went to this restaurant, never had the taste of this food, which I had. And this is a very sensory element. It's not a knowledgeable end element. If you trust me, because we had dinners together before and you know my taste, you might trust me more than you would trust GPT, because GPT never tasted that food. Maybe it's based on many people, but many people, it doesn't say that you're going to like the restaurant, right? And the GPT created for them a plan, and the GPT did not consider the time that it takes to get from one point to another. They will never be able to see all of it. Now, if you live in a city and you share with a friend, it's totally different now, because now we have to experience. So when people use AI to plan and write and write and write, this is great, right? So unless it's connected to robotics, it can be totally non-useful to use data being created by AI many times. Like if GPT will give you an answer on how to do something, but you're a risk averse person, well, how are you going to do it? I mean, GPT is telling you to do something you're not capable, and it doesn't know that you're risk averse. And you know what? You don't know that you're risk averse. Oh, no, I'm courageous. No, you're not. Compared to what, right? So I think that the way the brain is connected, it's useful to have those kind of AI technologies around, but it can be very non-useful at the same time unless you know how to converse with AI and you know yourself well. My book that is coming this week is about conversations with AI, right? How I converse with AI, basically. That's the book. It's still in design. So, but and it's a free book, by the way. If you have any listeners that want the book, we will give them to.
We can add a link in the bio.
Yeah, maybe. So I think this is important because people talk about prompt engineering, and I found that prompt engineering is great at a certain level, but sometimes it will not work in reality when you have to execute things. So the conversation, and I argue with AI. And so many times I'm saying, you're totally wrong. I asked, GPT once to write an article about to prove to me that all people are stupid, and it wrote a beautiful article about it. And then a minute later, proved to me that all humans are brilliant, and it wrote an article. So what you request is what you get, but GPT does not have a personality. I mean, it doesn't say behind its statements. So now you can read something and be totally biased because it confirms your beliefs that all women are stupid. And but then you don't understand why you don't get a job because you believe that all people are stupid and you're smarter than them. And then you have a bias, basically, right? It's a little bit more complicated than it seems. And I think having the skill of recognizing patterns and knowledge and knowing how to converse is very important. And this is the essence of everything in this world. And it can be very useful AI. It can be a total disaster.
The one thing that I've been wondering since I would say the word prompt engineering started getting a lot of fame out there in the tech space, especially, is that we never talk about talking to our families and friends and our colleagues in that way. Meaning, there are so many training camps to learn how to talk to AI, but no one is focusing that much attention on how to talk to your partner, how to talk to your parents, how to talk to your friends. Because if you start doing that, your life will just improve as a result of it.
Yes. Because in the end, you meet people, right? So I'll tell you something about this kind of a model, prompt engineering. First of all, it's not engineering. Okay, engineering is something you have to go to university for 7 years to study. So prompt engineering, people study for 2 hours and they say, "I'm a prompt engineer." I'm sorry, they're not. However, at the same time, on a science level, you can learn prompt engineering because there is science behind it. But the world is not only about science. The world is also about emotions and other parts, right? So when you go to prompt engineering, the way we work, like we what we do in our company, we coach all the employees of a company every day, 3, 4 times, 5 times a day. We coach them like it's an app, right? However, at the same time, when we coach, our coaches are being trained 600 hours to become a coach. Okay, and it's a unique impro coach, right? It's not coaching as you know. And at the same time, when we converse, let's say I'm coaching you or you're coaching me, let's the same, I can type to you something. How do I know that my statement is not biased? So when you have a coach talking to you on the phone, how do you know that he's not biased? So we analyze our work, first of all. Second, you get a message. And now that message will impact your mind. How do I know how it impact your mind? You send me back. But you see, there's a message. So this is conversational AI, right? And it's being analyzed. Your message is being analyzed. And then I have to figure out how to prompt your mind to put the right information inside because the Geiger model, garbage in, garbage out. See, if I write something smart and you write something stupid, the outcome will be stupid by the AI. If I write something stupid, you're writing something smart, the outcome will be stupid. If both of us writing wrong things, good luck to us. However, we need to be brilliant both sides in the conversation because it reads both sides conversations. That's our models. That's how they work. They read you and me at the same time. trying to figure out the solutions, right? And these are only recommendations. Please remember this, because it's still human to human interaction, right? And that's why we have to have the skills of 600 hours to figure out whether the GPT kind of, let's say, the AI is correct or not. What you will call human in the loop, or whatever, I don't know. But this is a conversation when you have between two people that must be analyzed. So in order to do so, I'm trained well to prompt the AI when I'm writing, because it reads what I'm writing, and also to prompt your mind, which is a conversational element. So basically, I'm prompting both of you. I'm prompting the AI and you at the same time. Do you know many people who know how to prompt the mind of a person as well as the AI? So the feedback I will get from you will be analyzed correctly with AI. So how do you prompt a person's mind? The prompt engineering model is not only for technology, it's also for human. How do I get into this area in your brain for you to bring the right information in, and not false information to the conversation? Because if there's false on one side, or a bias on one side, or contradiction on one side, or wrong assumptions on one side, then basically the machine will give the wrong recommendation. And I can look at the recommendation as a coach, and I can be biased about it and give you the wrong advice.
Right.
Right? So yes, it is about communication skills and conversation with AI. In our case, in what we do in our company, is how to prompt your mind and how to prompt the AI. And you will learn how to prompt my mind as a human and also the AI. So the conversation is between three. You get me as a coach, I get you as the best participant in the world, smart and brilliant, and I get the AI being able to make interventions or to do analytics or pattern recognition or whatever we do, right?
So you mentioned that there is a it's very important to analyze and understand if there is a bias in a statement that either the person is sending your way or you are sending as a coach, for example. Are there like specific methods that are there that will help us identify the bias or the assumptions that someone is making?
Yeah, yeah. Let me do this. I will read to you something nice. It's kind of a story, okay? But it's based on conversations, right? John, it was Monday. John had always considered himself as an average employee. Nothing more, nothing more, nothing less. But the labyrinth of biases controlling his every thought, feeling, and action was something he never saw coming. On a crisp day, Monday morning, John walked into the office, his footsteps echoing through the near empty corridor. He had always thought of his colleague, Lisa, that she was exceptionally competent. Punctuality and polite manner always left a glowing impression on him. Little did he know the halo effect, which is a bias, was at play. It was clouding his judgment and making him overlook her frequent mistakes and lack of initiatives. To John, Lisa was one positive trait of Lisa was enough to overshadow his overall her capabilities. So what does it mean? Let's say the person has eyes of a smart person, just the eyes, and a nice smile, and is well dressed, but he's a total moron. But you see the person, you say, "Oh, I like him. Look at his eyes. He looks so brilliant." Well, but he didn't open his mouth yet. So you have the halo effect, basically saying, because of the look, I would decide that the person is smart. Because of a look of another person, I would say that he is kind, until you get married and you get in trouble, right? So the halo effect is something that can be found. So what do you think about that person, and how do you know? Since you have a bias, therefore, you have assumptions. So we have to trigger the assumptions and then to confirm them if they are the truth, because only facts will say, is he a smart person? Is he a kind person or not? It depends on the behavior and not on the look. So people are biased because of different elements, but they don't know that they are biased. So we track 305 biases. But that's not the only problem, because sometimes when you make a decision, it could be the 16 different biases will attack your mind at the same moment. How do you know which one of them? How do you know how to trigger all of them? Do you know their names? Do you know what they do to your mind? And you make a decision and it's the wrong decision. Or maybe it's the best decision in life. But because you cannot trigger those biases, you cannot make use of them to make another good decision, because you don't know which one of them made you make that decision. A bias can be a good thing because it's a shortcut in the brain, right? It's good to have a bias as long as you control. But you don't know those 16 biases attacking you at the same time about a decision in life. And you lose an opportunity or you're gaining an opportunity, but you cannot gain it again because you don't know how it worked. That's pattern recognition.
Right. Right. I understand the halo effect. It I actually was thinking about this, I would say, a few weeks ago, when I see all there is an election going on in the US. So there are so many people sharing their ideas about, what they think about the political scenario. And a lot of times it gets me thinking that we in the media has a tendency to kind of associate intelligence to a person who is, let's say, an expert in field A, and when they start talking about field B that they have zero qualifications for, but because they have made it really big in field A, we kind of associate that level of competence in everything that they speak,
Yes.
whereas they make no sense at all.
Sometimes it happens when you say, but he is rich, therefore he is smart. No, he knows how to make money. It doesn't make him smart. I've
Right.
seen
Exactly.
professors in universities smarter than anyone in the world, but they're not rich. But we consider, because there is a statement people use, if you're so smart, why you're not so rich? But I'm rich intellectually, okay, more than the person who is rich with money. And it's so boring to talk to a person who is rich with money, and it's so exciting to talk to a person who is rich in his mind and soul. So, whom do you want to talk to? The halo bias is one but if you have the halo and the confirmation bias together, now you're in big trouble. And if you have some others at the same time, at a certain moment in life, you will make the right or the wrong decision. Okay. And now and there's a price for it, right? There's a trade off.
Do also the personality traits of a person, the big five, impact the kind of, like, for example, if a person is very extroverted, they execute or they show a certain kind of biases more compared to a person who is introverted, for example.
I will tell you this. We have used the five personalities and other models before. They do not work, and I'll tell you why. Human have a very complicated mind. So if there are 10 billion people in the world, there are 10 billion personalities. You can say this the same traits, but it's not the same person. Maybe you will find that you and I have the same traits, but in the end, you will see that our behavior is not the same. Our decisions are not the same. So what we found that each person has his own personality, and we are capable of analyzing the unique DNA of the mind of a person, and even how to correlate it to another unique kind of DNA, right, of another person. Because 10 billion people, 10 billion personalities. So we are not using the personality types, because in reality, in daily life, in micro performance models, it's not helpful. And this is something we have learned after doing like 50,000 sessions per month, right? So you start to see there's no such a thing, personality traits, because it's too complex. You can see a tendency, right? You see this person has more mathematical brain, this more artistic brain. Yes, but when it comes to a decision, who will make a better decision to buy a car? The one is artistic or mathematician? So you said the mathematician because he will buy a car at the best price. But if he bought the car in order to impress people, the artistic person will find a nicer car. So what is the reason that you buy the car? Is it the cost? Is it the functionalities? Is it to impress people? Do you know what drives you to buy this car? Is it the design? Is it the engine? Is it something else? And since we are biased and we decide to buy a certain car, a certain Toyota, and then we start to walk in the streets and you start to do confirmation bias. Oh, there's so many Toyotas right now on the streets, right? And say, oh, everybody's buying them. So I should buy that, right? So our mind is very complex. And people sometimes don't understand how complex it is. So they're trying to simplify. I'm also a simplifier, but I cannot tell you that there are five personality types. There are 10 billion personalities.
That is true, actually. If you are trying to buy something and if you're trying to figure out when I should buy it, you suddenly start seeing it everywhere on the hoardings in the stores, seeing other people using it.
And of course, if you go to the internet, you search for something, suddenly they send you the same ad again and again and again and again from different areas, because people are paying, to bias you, right?
So, does it kind of mean that we are being programmed? Okay, I'll ask a better question. Because these companies are so data driven now, they can basically send you very specific things based on your online interaction. So, do you think we are being programmed, because most of the companies understand these things about the human behavior now, and they're using it to make you purchase more stuff? So
Yes, however, look, you want to be biased. You want to confirm that the Toyota is the best car for you. You want to prove to your girlfriend or to your wife that you made the right decision, because this is important for you to say, "Oh, see, I made the right decision." See, everywhere the motivations are the problem, and the motivational bias. So companies can do this, yes, absolutely, but there's the short term and the long term impact. So maybe they will bias all people to buy a Toyota, okay, but people will find the Toyota is a lousy car. Now, here is a new bias. 1 million people say on the internet the Toyota is a lousy car. It's not a lousy car, by the way. I have a Toyota, so but I will tell you. But assuming that they were being able to bias all the people to buy. Now you have so many people saying that it's the wrong car. Short term, they will make the sales. Long term, they will lose the company, because there will be too many people saying, "Yeah, I thought like that everybody is buying, but I have to fix the car every month or whatever." I don't know. I'm not saying Toyota, because Toyota is a car that you don't fix usually, but let's say another car. Now, please remember, there's an element to understand. I can bias people. I can make 10 million people buy my product, and then those 10 people will talk against me if it's a lousy product. They will be excited about it, and after 6 months, everybody will talk everywhere on every system in the world, okay, and on social media how lousy this product is, right? So
so you bring a good point that about long term thinking. You mentioned that we have a lot of biases while making decisions. So how does an individual kind of, number one, identify that they are operating from a place of bias? You also mentioned that bias is not that bad. It's also good to have certain biases. So how does a person?
how the person knows? We solve the problem in a very simple way. Talk to your coach, you will find it. Because we have systems in place to find the biases at every interaction. So you can say, today I went to a meeting with my boss. This was the meeting about. This is how I feel about it. This is my thoughts. Oh, I can see like 12 biases here, sir. Let's talk about them. I think we are not objective, okay, as human. So it's very hard to track your biases. And even if you will find your bias, you will convince yourself that it's still okay to make the decision the way you did, because it has to do with ego issues and other needs, right? And it could be another bias that will work on you that you will not know, that is making you to believe that what you did is right. Okay. So I think that we all need help. And when we build the company or the ImproAI, we thought that people can go to ChatGPT and they can get a lot of advice, or or they can go to Copilot, and it can do a lot of things for you. But the one thing, it does not know you that well. And to know you that well, you need two people in place. One, you need the technology to analyze you, and second, you have to have another personality with a different point of view to make sure that the machine is not biased and you're not biased. So I think every person in the world needs his own micro coach, micro performance coach like Impro. And then the utilization of AI will be brilliant. And we can see it in companies. Our work in companies is very simple. For the buyer, the CEO, we show him KPIs. We show them how we saved $12 billion in the past month just by making changes to human behavior, right? And we show the numbers. There are numbers. They are running on the dashboard, right? All the numbers. On the other side, for the person, if he wants to grow, if he wants to have more life-work balance, and if he wants to be more convincing, he wants to lead, he wants to become a VP, for that person, he has its own wins, right? The win is for that person. So it's kind of easy. It's easy to do. Is it a way for you to look for your biases? Look, every sentence that you say has a bias. How are you going to track them? So instead of tracking all of them, because not every statement is so important, let's track those who are important, because if not, you will just be analyzing yourself all day long, and you will find yourself being hospitalized for some mental issues. It's because it's over analytics. It's not correct to do. But when it's important also to track those biases of your statements based on your conversation, based on your recording, based on your tone of voice, based on all these kind of things that we analyze biases on our system. It is one element. We have 60 layers of things that we track, right?
And do these biases kind of harden with age? Meaning, is it easier to help a younger person, or is it easier to help someone who is in his 40s or 30? Like, does age play a big role, or does the mindset play a even bigger role?
It's a hard question to ask because it has to do with how stubborn the person is. It could be a child that is very open for change. It could be a child that is very stubborn to change. Don't tell me, I know. Don't tell me, I know. I will do it by myself. I want to do it all by myself. Don't tell me how to do this, right? There's a child. Adults can also hardwired elements, right? So don't tell me I've seen this before. I know better than you. But then I'm telling you, no, if you're so smart, okay, you're still an employee. And those young people, 22 years old in Silicon Valley, they're building companies of billions of dollars, and you are not capable. What's the reason? What is their adaptability level? Which impact their creativity and their productivity? It depends because some people, look at me, right? I'm 68. So my friends are over the hill already. They play golf, right? And I'm building a new company, right? It's like 3 years old. And probably I will be in another company, possibly in the future. Why? Because I'm not hardwired personality. I'm very adaptable to change. Okay.
Right. Right.
Sometimes even the people in the office who are 30 years old, they say, oh, we cannot run that fast like you. Fast means I'm very adaptable. But you can train yourself to become adaptable as long as you understand that you're facing a big problem if you're not going to change. And as long as you understand what is the great opportunity for there and you make the trade off. I will stop doing this way because this way will create for me more benefit. So is it a young guy or an old guy? It depends. I know stubborn 5 years old and I know stubborn 7 years old. So it's hard to say. At up to a certain age, I believe between I would say like let's say 6 to 12. It's because I worked with children a lot in the past. I created a program for children and trained thousands of children around the world before I did this company. 6 to 12 is the best time in the world because until 6 you're still learning the basics. So you're adaptable to anything. Yeah. If your parents speak Hindu, you will study Hindu. If your parents speak Turkish, you will study Turkish. That's easy. However, when you are 13 years old and now you become more like stubborn because you want to do it your own way. So the window that we have with children is between 6 to 12. And if you embed the right um, habits for life, some habits for life, then those kids will still use it when they're 70 years old.
And what would you define as like right habits for life? Like, what have you seen after teaching all these children? If you teach these things at a young age, they have a quote unquote good life.
I will use two statements from Elon Musk. Do something useful, right? Do something useful and be efficient. Whatever. It could be useful emotionally or intellectually or physically or financially. I believe that many people do a lot of non useful things. They create non useful products, they write non useful books, and a lot of things are non useful. Usefulness is an essence. And the way you do it, you need to be the most efficient in the world. And that's for me. I mean, unless you want to do some yoga in the mountains for 3 weeks, that's fine, but that's also useful. And if you have a good teacher, it's efficient. But when it comes to the business world, I think that usefulness is essential and efficiency. So if you make a child having the skills of efficiency and usefulness, it's fine. So pattern recognition and pattern design or creativity or productivity or adaptability, these are all about efficiencies. Replicating habits, creating new habits, learning new stuff, whatever. Be efficient in your learning. Okay. Don't waste your time on GPT doing the wrong prompts for 3 years. Be efficient. Okay. And then the other thing is make it useful. Don't do things that are not useful. Okay. For you, whether on emotional level or other level. And I think these are the two important skills. I think Elon Musk is very good at them, as far as I know him and read about him and analyze his algorithms, thinking algorithms. But you can find other people like that, like famous people are very efficient and do only useful things and create only useful products and so on and so on and so on. If a child is efficient, he will not be frustrated. If he will do something useful, he will gain recognition.
I would say one of the reasons I asked that is, can improve.ai, impro.ai, since it's currently working with organizations, so it's definitely catering to people of a certain age group, let's say at least about 25. Can a similar system be developed for younger people who are either in college or in school?
Yeah. So it is possible. Part of our mission statement in Impro was then the moment we will become profitable, which is now, we will start to kind of to donate a part of the money that we make from clients for children. So I'll explain to you how it's going to be done. Basically, you have a company, you have 3,000 employees, and you say, okay, Mr. Breyer, take those 3,000 employees, make them helping me to exceed my KPIs. So I'm the CEO, and I want to exit the company, or I want to fulfill the needs of my investors or my Nasdaq investors, whatever. So stock buyers. So I will tell you, okay, 3,000 people, you got it. We will do the work for you. Very low cost. Don't worry about the cost because the money you're going to make is 100x more than what you will invest in us. But a couple of percent, percentage of the profit we're going to take. We're going to use my other organization of child development, and we will use those trainers that we have in the other organization, which is kind of non-for-profit in a way, kind of. It still makes money, but the money is being donated, right? So, and basically, we if you say 3,000 employees, choose a school, a couple of schools, I don't know, in India or First Nation, whatever you want, of 3,000 kids, we will take care of them. And we will make sure that all of them will become gifted kids, polymath thinkers. So this is how it's being done. So the technology is our technology to train the teachers. It is possible, and basically you can use it for your PR. If you're the CEO, use it for your own public relationship. Tell that you donated. You never donate. We do it for you, because it's based on our. But it's okay for you to have it. But the most important part is it is possible with certain limitations that the teacher will coach each child every day for 1 minute on our system based on our other methods and the methods for adults to support the growth of those children for a changing world. And the only thing that our other organization is doing is helping children to become gifted, whether they are being born like that or not. We've done it with tens of thousands of kids around the world already. So, yes, I think efficiency and usefulness is very important for children. And you can say that even playing like football or basketball, something is useful and can be done in a more efficient way and can increase efficiency, right? Because if you play football, it creates a better body posture or body abilities that will enable you to focus more at school, right? It will release tension. So it's very efficient to play and it's very useful to play, right? So it depends what you're looking at. So a child is something different than an adult, but in the end, both of them. And I think most people are not efficient. I can tell you from looking at the thousands of threads of conversations. And most people waste their time doing non useful things, or they use the time in a non useful way.
When you say that people who are doing useful things, I have personally noticed that if you go in a room of, let's say, 10 people, or in a family of people who are, let's say, belong to a certain, if let's say there is a business family, or there is a family of people who are all into athletics, for example, they all have a innate microculture in that unit of people, and that microculture defines how they behave overall. For example, if I belong to a family of athletes, chances of me maintaining my body and being healthy are very high compared to someone who is not from such a family, for example. Do you think, or according as per your research, do the biases kind of stem from these microcultures or the culture that a person belongs to?
Yes, yes,
And certain cultures are just inherently more successful than the rest because of these behaviors that are ingrained in that culture of people?
yes, yes. You can see it in many ways in cultures that have strong beliefs in God. Many times it creates hates between the groups, right? It's a bias. I wrote a small, like an article on Medium, a couple of months ago about why people fight for land, and I wrote it about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So, if there was a grain of sand here at home or outside the house, and you would ask me, "Over, can you give me that grain, one grain? I'll tell you, of course, take it. If you ask me to give you 1,000 grains of sand, each grain is very tiny, you hardly can see it. I will give it to you. But over the years, when you have millions of grains or billions of grains of, you call it a land. But these are grains of sand, all of them. So now you go to the grain of sand, so you call it a land. And land has history, right? Because your family and the family before and the family before, family before. So now there's a fight. They fight on the land. The Israelis and the Palestinians saying it's my land, and the others are saying it's my land, right? So what do they fight for? They fight for some historical elements. But in the end, because of the historical element, they want to have the piece of grain. And grain you can find anywhere in the world. There's so much grain in Canada. Why do you fight for the grains? Because you added history to the grains, but there's no history in the grains. There's history in the land. And because of history and because of belief systems and biases, they will continue to kill each other forever. Is it worth it? So my question was, okay, when we come from a culture, we have belief systems. In my culture, that's the way they do it. In your culture, they do it this way. Do we want to fight about it, or do I want to test your culture? Are you willing to test my culture? And maybe we can live both cultures together. But if you come from a family that believes that everything is about sports, and in my family, everything is about culture, seeing movies, reading books, you don't have time to read books. You do sports. I read books. What is more correct? There's nothing correct about it, right? It's the way you feel about it. But then the guy who loves to read books, okay, is married a woman who loves to do sports. Will they be able to live together? Not for sure. If he doesn't change his mind, she will not change it. She will never read a book. The conversation will be lame. If he's not going to do sports, she would not like him personally, physically, because he's going to look ugly and fat, right? So, but smart. So when we go to the world of biases, the biases are based on our culture, and our culture based on experiences that we went through that created belief systems which are biases.
The point of culture I bring out because, for example, in my family, nobody is entrepreneurial in a way that they actually went out there and risked it all. Whereas I wanted to start something of my own. Sunday Pajamas is what I started eventually. And when I, let's say, met my friends whose parents had a business, they had a very different attitude towards business. They did not see it as a risk, they saw it as growth, for example. So the same activity that, like, for example, someone from my family would look at as a huge risk, the same set of activities are seen by this set of people as a growth potential. So same activity, right? But two different perceptions and hence two different outcomes.
Yes. However, you can combine the elements. So let me explain to you. I'm not a business person. My father was a teacher. I was a teacher for many years, but I run businesses. It's not the first business I built. What I utilize is my ability to teach others to replicate my abilities or to replicate knowledge and let them manage. I'm excellent in delegation because I'm a good teacher. And that's why in our company, every morning we meet 2 hours. We just study together. I teach some of it. Sometimes they teach. We teach and learn every morning for 2 hours. And then we start the day. And that's why we understand the world the way we understand. So we build our own culture, which is based on the unique ability of the chief scientist to teach. Do you think that all scientists can teach? You're totally wrong. Some of them cannot even speak to a person correctly. But I use my unique ability to build a business that is becoming more and more successful because I teach. So I'm not trying to be a businessman. I'm not trying to be what I'm not. I do collaborate, okay, with my partners who are very good at other elements, and I let them do what they do well, and they let me do what I do well. Okay, no, we're not confused about it. But what is that you do have, and this is something you have to look at. What is that you have that can be utilized in the entrepreneurial way as a non-obvious connection? So you will not say that teaching can build a company, and I will tell you, yes, teaching can build a company. Nevertheless, I can tell you to so many CEOs don't know how to teach their people, and so many managers don't know how to teach, and therefore they cannot delegate, which in the end, okay, does not let the company grow fast enough because they know delegation models and no replication models. So teaching is a part of a business. And many companies will tell you, yeah, long life learning, blah, blah, blah. They don't have it. They just talk about it. Come on. They give them some courses and some workshops. That's learning. Like it means like study every morning for 2 hours. And I can tell you, all our employees said, we never had a manager that was teaching us so much every day. Never in our life. And they worked for the big four consulting firms before. Somebody taught them something to do and execute. That's it. Not really understanding and get deep into the materials and to become innovators inside the system. They just did their job. They were being consultants. But in our company, they're not consultant coaches or whatever. They're innovators. So you can be whatever you want as long as you utilize what you know. And you can also study the skills that you don't have, like entrepreneurship. It doesn't mean that you will be the best entrepreneur in the world, but you will speak the language. So when you have somebody who is good at it, you will understand what they're talking about. It will not sound like Chinese for you.
With Impro.ai, there is a very specific goal that every company has, is to, as you are talking about performance as like the KPI that almost every company is looking for, right? If you had to imagine an Impro.ai kind of a system to optimize a person's life apart from work, what would be like good goals for that person to optimize for? Because I see a lot of people who are, we're optimizing for the wrong things, which lead to outcomes which are not desirable for them or their families or the communities that they live in or overall.
Look, you can look at everything that you do as something meaningful for you, right? You have to find meaning in things, right? So let's say if it was for the regular person, not an employee in a company, not profits, say, when I get up in the morning, I don't have energy to go to work. But this is personal coaching. So the coach can ask you why, but you don't know why, right? So I don't know. I just don't have it. And the coach will start to ask you a couple of questions, and then we will find that because you eat a lot of pancakes in the morning, you don't have energy. And I will give a recipe, and you will start to eat good food for 3 days. And we'll measure every day your energy level, how it changed. Is it better or worse? After 3, 4, 5 days, we find that your energy level is going up. Good. Now we can change a habit. You stop eating pancakes in the morning and you start to eat healthy food. But the question is how the healthy food will impact your life. So basically, what we do in this case, we say, okay, since you feel more healthy and since, okay, it even makes you happy at a certain level, although you don't have the pancakes, you're still happy from the feeling that you have during the day. Okay, you made the trade-off: pancakes, no energy; healthy food, energy. What do you want to have? I want energy. Good, so no pancakes, right? You get used to it, and then I'll tell you, since you're already in the health process, do you have bicycles? How far is work for you? Can you drive the bicycles at least? And then suddenly you do something else, which is based on the same thing we've been talking about. Okay, eat healthy. Now let's do something, exercise health. And how do you feel now? And then you say, yeah. And then I have a lot of thoughts when I'm driving the bicycles. Tell me about your thoughts when you're driving. I mean, let's make use of one of the thoughts that you have in order to keep the environment safe. And then we'll talk about environment safety. And then I will tell you, so do you use paper at work? And you'll tell me, yes. How many papers per day? Count them. 20. What if you will use only 15? So less paper will be used in this world by you. And then after a couple of days, you'll tell me every day I use only 15, which is 5 less than usual. I also write on the other side of the paper. Good, fine. Can you tell it to your employees, your team? And now all the team, 6 people, save 30 pages, 30 papers per day, which if we sum it, it's 1,000 per year, which means like saving $50 for the profit of the company, but at the same time, making you more effective in your work using less paper. But then if you use less paper, why don't you start to use digital work instead? Digitalization instead of paper in some cases, right? And suddenly I'm leading you into digitalization. Now, if we're in digitalization, let's learn more skills in digitalization, right? How to use OpenAI as a resource in digitalization to make you more efficient. But this all started from pancakes. So this is what we do. So it doesn't matter where you go and what you do. It could be work related to, but the point is how you make this continuity to connect the dots all the time. And in the end, it's you feeling better about yourself, isn't it?
Would you say this is more like there is a lot of potential in every individual, but it is kind of locked because of all these biases and assumptions that either they are making themselves or they are taught to think that way, and using these techniques, first of all, to identify the bias, then to teach them the language, the example that you gave in the beginning, to use the word yet, for example.
Yes.
Like these are the tools to, in a way, unlock the potential of every individual.
So I will tell you this. Is it possible that when you bought enchilada for your wife 3 years ago, this will lead you to become one of the best COOs in the world in your business? I can prove it. I can prove one of our participants, okay, who worked for a large chain. And the first conversation we had, it was about the enchilada that he bought for his wife for dinner. That's how we started. Today is one of the most brilliant COOs that I know in this world.
So you're saying that event triggered.
Yeah, because we connect the dots, because in the brain everything is connects, but we know how to connect the dots. This is the science of our work. So the more you invest, the faster you will change. How many people change 20 behaviors per year? Very few. We change 400 per year. You're a total different person after 400 changes, right? You become more efficient, you become more creative, you become more productive, whatever you become. Can you connect the dots between the enchilada or the pancakes and your success in life? This is what we do. We track your behavior over time and we connect it in non obvious connections to so many elements that in the end will drive you to become something. You need to believe in this model because most people will tell you, cut that bullshit offer. Pancake has nothing to do with me becoming CEO. And I'm telling you, yes, it does. And the enchilada can make the best COO in your industry, the best CEO in your industry. And the reason is because of the enchilada. Most people cannot see these connections. But if you look at the child, playing some game when he's young, right? Little game. Can you tell that he will become a CEO or the best musician of the world or the best basketball player? This little child, when he was young, did you know that he will become X or Y? How do you know? But you see, there are connections over time that one thing is building upon the other things, but we don't have control. And that's why you cannot say, this child will become the best in the world as a musician.
Yeah, control all the understanding.
Okay. Nobody knows when Elton John was 1 day old, nobody said that he would become Elton John. He went through a process in life. What we do, we start to do pattern recognition on your behavior in order to accelerate the speed and make you more successful to become something that you can become and to make best use of your talents. But this is as long as people commit to the program daily. Because if people will answer my coaches once a week, I cannot track anything. There's no tracking. So it could be your child, it could be you. And if you want to become a strong entrepreneur, starting from what you're doing today, you can go step by step and build it. And we can do the change acceleration program for you to accelerate it so you'll make less mistakes by overcoming those biases and other obstacles.
So, do you feel over the course of your career, right, you have essentially worked on unlocking human potential? Was that the goal that you had, or it kind of happened that way because of the kind
No,
of work
it,
that you do?
it, it was the goal. It was the goal since I was about 3 years old because my father was an amazing teacher and all the kids in school loved him a lot. And since he was teaching me since I was 3 years old, many things before I went to school for a couple of days, right? Um, when my father did this when I was very young, it was very important for him to make sure that he will track my behaviors over time for my father. And I think that when I was about 3 years old, I knew one thing for sure that I want to become a teacher. And that's what I'm doing until today. And I started to teach my puppets in the room. I had puppets, in a U shape, and I was teaching them something that I invented, like a language that I invented or something else, right? And I think I knew that I will be a teacher since I was 3 years old. My father was a teacher. I knew it. And then I turned it into the business world to become a teacher of other people, make them successful. When I was a music teacher for like 15 years, I raised about 3,000 professional musicians in 15 years. You will not find many teachers doing this, all of them professionals. And what I wanted is what I still want today. I wanted to become better than me as musicians. And today, my team, I wanted to become better than me. And my clients, I wanted to become better than me. This is the most essential element for me in my life, how to make other people better than me, or better than themselves, or better than others. This is from 3 years old. It's the same. Nothing has changed. So when people talk about human potential, it's more than human potential. I want others be better than.
And do you see that with the technologies like AI, you are able to translate your learnings and these ideas and provide this, I would not call it service, but this knowledge to a lot of people at scale now. How does that make you feel?
Look, that's the beauty of it. When I started to teach other teachers to teach other children, and I was able to train 10,000 kids in the Czech Republic in 1 year to become gifted out of non gifted, I knew the power of replication. And with AI, I found that I can replicate my knowledge, my skills, my patterns, everything in there. And while teaching my team to work well with thousands of people around the world and accelerate and measure everything, this is so fulfilling, which I cannot explain. And I can tell you that I was involved in understanding AI for the past 16 years, but in the past 3 years, building a company and looking at those patterns with technology, I started to see how impactful it can be. And I hope, one day we will impact, I don't know, 1 million people or 2 million. I'm not saying to impact 10 billion people. I don't think there are so many companies that can impact billions of people, but I don't want to impact those who want to be more successful in their life and happy. And this is important for me. I'm so proud sometimes of our participants when they do something incredible that they've not been able to do before. I cannot explain to you the way I feel when I'm proud of others. This fulfills me because I know that my finger was there, the touch. Okay. And now with AI, it's possible because as a person, if you coach people, as if I was a coach, I can impact 20 people per week, right? And now I can impact thousands of people per week, right? So that's it.
Well, I would say this was wonderful, sir, to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a nice opportunity. And I really, if you will want any time in the future to talk more about other things, I would be more than happy to.
In fact, when you mentioned that your new book is coming out, I would love
Yes.
to read the book and we can actually talk about the book.
Yes, there are two things we are doing with the book. First of all, we want to create a community of people. If you want to download the book, you can become a part of the community. It's a free community. So, in the community, we will solve world issues, business issues, personal issues using AI in workshops, in webinars, and it's all for free, right? And there will be three tiers: students and professors, right, in universities as one tier. The second tier will be startups, because this brings, the economy first to strive. And the last one will be CEOs and VPs and directors. And from that area, we assume that it will enable us to impact their organizations as a service, right? So in the end, there's some business behind it. But what we wanted to have a lot of workshops and meetups and so we can really share what we know with others so they can be more successful. And maybe 10% will be as a business road for us, roadmap, and 90% is just to build relationship with amazing people and to do different collaborations and so on. So that book is the first book. It's a very practical book with, like, it's not philosophy, right? And basically in the next year there will be another 9 books coming, so I'm working on them. So they'll always be for free, just to enable people to sign in and to become a part. So um anyway, you will get the book, so don't worry about it. If you want to be a part of the community, you're more than welcome.
Definitely, I would love to be a part of it.
These are people that will become great thinkers and executors. Yes, we can do it for sure. I will be more than happy. And and yes, I think we have to say goodbye now because I have another meeting. And anyway, it's 1 hour, and it was a pleasure talking to you. Really pleasure.
It was wonderful. It went by so quickly. I did not realize.
You are a very good listener, and you know how to pinpoint the right things when you listen. It's beautiful how you do it.
Yeah, I would say like I tend to just I'm super curious about a lot of subjects. Just like you mentioned, I'm very fascinated by the idea of being a polymath, and because the reason I'm fascinated because you never get there because there is always more out there that you don't know than the things that you do know.
Yeah, yeah, you have to channel it correctly. So because it's endless, so you have to do the limitations that will be most productive, right?
So this podcast, you can see it as our open thought experiment that we are running with intellectuals, thinkers from our class group. So it was a pleasure to
Beautiful.
have you, sir.
Yes, yes. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.